throughout history, there have been a lot of psychologists who have made different claims. One is Freud, which I think we all know. He said that you're pretty much born with what you have. This is a very big generalization, but you're pretty much born with what you have. You can't really change it. You have to deal with things that are outside of your control. And people who are at the top get lucky. Right, so that's one thing. There's Carl Jung, who has a bit more of a, he's a bit more optimistic. He's like, okay, you can control stuff, but some of it is outside of your control, and most of it is outside of your control. That's the general idea. It's all under, some kind of influence, but you can change it a little bit with some attitude. Now, there's a very small psychologist who was born at the same time around Freud and Carl Jung had started exploding in popularity. His name was Alfred Adler. And if you look at self-improvement today, and you compare it to the ideologies of Alfred Adler, you'll find that almost every single thing lines up. Every single thing every billionaire, every millionaire, every successful person has said lines up with what Alfred Adler has said. That is extremely interesting. And think about it like this. Everyone has heard of Freud. Everyone has heard of Carl Jung. Everyone has heard of Nietzsche, at least in the psychology space, I guess you can call it. But not many people have heard of or even discussed Alfred Adler. Now think about it like this. If a lot of people have heard about Freud, a lot of people will be like him, have the same beliefs, which you see manifesting today. People want to change what's outside of their control. They blame it on the system. They blame it on being pushed down by society, that everything's against them. And what's funny is this. It's inside of a country that is named after its freedom. The United States of America. One of the most freest countries, arguably, in the world. And people are saying the system is against them. Now, I'm not going to get into that. But what I'm saying is that because Alfred Adler's psychology is so little known, and the fact that there are such little billionaires probably does speak a lot of truth in it. And one of his biggest ideas was that all problems are interrelationship problems. Now, what does that mean? Almost all of your problems stem from your relationship with someone else. Where do you get trauma from? You can't get trauma unless someone indirectly or directly causes it to you. Where do we learn most of our habits? From our parents. Where do we get most of our influence, especially as teenagers? Friends. If there was no one on earth, it was only you, which is not even possible, right? You still need your parents. But let's say there's absolutely no one, hypothetically. What would you be doing? You wouldn't have to go to work. You wouldn't have to show up and act a certain way. You wouldn't have to wear clothes. You wouldn't have to dress up nice. You wouldn't have to show yourself off as someone who is competent. Now, these may not be problems, but maybe you view them as problems. If you didn't have people around you, who would you be? Now think about it like this. If you only had good people around you, who would you be? If you only had people who set high expectations of you, who would you be? You need the courage to be disliked if you don't surround yourself with good people. A majority of people are not surrounded by good people because a majority of people are losers. I hate to admit it. If you want to be good, if you want to do well in a world that is not doing well, that is mediocre, you have to either spend time with people who want you to do well or who are doing well themselves, or you need to have the courage to be disliked. The courage to go against what others are saying, because oddly enough, they will bring you down. It's an interrelationship issue. Crabs in the bucket mentality, right? That is, the crabs in the bucket mentality is kind of like a subset of that interrelationship problem. Every other problem you can think of goes underneath that as well. So if all problems are interrelationship problems, what if you have no relationships? You will turn into a psychopath. There are some things that you should keep your standard of. You can't have the courage to be disliked. And it was interesting. Amongst the Buddhist monks, they had mentioned that we must not dress up oddly. We must fit in with the public on the outside, but on the inside we must be in our own realm. We must follow our own ideals, what we believe in. But physically, on the outside, wear what the modernists are wearing. Wear what they believe is the trend today. And this is also what the Stoics brought up, which is very interesting, because if the Stoics brought this up, that means that there are Stoics around us, there are monks around us that we don't even know exist, because they're blending in. And Stoics, generally, are the ones who are doing the best in life. Not monks, monks are, they just meditate all day. I don't know why someone would do that, bro. But if you follow good people, you'll become good people, or a part of that good people. If you follow rich people, you'll become a part of that rich people. And this is, again, one of the things on my wall says, understand the cliche. I don't know if you can, I'm not going to put my camera on, bro. Understand the cliche. People say your network is your net worth. I just proved it. If all problems are interrelationship problems, why don't you make your problems beneficial to you? Your friends won't accept you if they're making $4 million, you're making 100K. They won't accept you. So now you have a problem you have to deal with. What is that problem? To get rich, to actually blend in with them, to feel like you're a part of them. You will have the urge to have people surrounded around you who are making less than you. And once you do that, you set you up for mediocrity. Because they seem to be having more fun. It is hard to have the courage to be disliked. Extremely difficult. A lot of people struggle with having to tell their friends, I can't talk to you anymore. Simply because they do not have the courage to be disliked. Now, you can't do this in an autistic manner, right? You can't be going around and being like, oh, you're not making 4 million, I'm not going to be around you. Come on, bro. Tell them, if you don't match up to my standards. And firstly, set yourself standards. This is very important. Set yourself standards and goals that you want to reach, you want to be. And then secondly, change your net worth. Your network. Who are you surrounding yourself around? Do you think, from your first judgment, do you think that they have goals? Do you think that they want to be somewhere when they're in their 20s? Do you see them somewhere in their 20s, doing well? Or however old you are. If you don't see them doing well in their 20s, or maybe 5-10 years from now, you cut them off. The courage to be disliked. You cannot become successful if you surround yourself with losers. It's a simple idea, but very hard to implement. And once you follow this path of, okay, I want to be somewhere, you're going to surround yourself with very, very few people. Extremely few people. It'll be hard to find them. That's one of the reasons. The main idea here is to ask why. Why are you following something? And how is it an interpersonal relationship problem? Which relationship with people is causing my problem I have right now? Why do I play video games? Simply because my friends play video games, they call me on. If you had no friends that called you on to play video games, who are you going to play video games with? No one. So you're not going to play it. It's a very simple idea, hard to implement. Have the courage to be disliked.